In the back office of almost every independent medical clinic, there is a financial hazard sitting in a filing cabinet. You signed your commercial payer contracts when you opened, or when you added a new payer to the panel. The payer sent over a fee schedule, you checked it briefly, and you signed. The reality is that 37% of medical practices never negotiate their payer contracts again after that initial signature. Years pass. The renewal date comes and goes without anyone flagging it 90 days out. The contract simply rolls over for another 2 or 3 years at the exact same rates. The payers have a clear advantage here. They rely on an information asymmetry, where they know exactly what the market pays, and they benefit directly when practice leaders simply forget to check their renewal dates. Now multiply that oversight. When a practice lets a set-it-and-forget-it approach ride across 7 or 8 different commercial payers over 6 or 7 years, the gap in revenue becomes a massive liability. Payments still arrive, the billing team still works denials, the revenue cycle appears functional, while actively masking a compounding loss of real dollar value underneath. To understand exactly how much value is bleeding out, we have to look at the math behind practice operating margins. This graph tracks the baseline of running a clinic over 5 years. Industry benchmarks show practice operating costs inflate at 6 to 8% annually. Commercial payers, however, apply standard adjustments averaging only 3 to 4% per year. This expanding gap means that every time a contract cycle auto-renews without renegotiation, identical medical services are worth measurably less in real dollars. The cost baseline moved, but the rates did not. At the macro level, Kodak Solutions data shows providers lost $48.4 billion in net revenue leakage across the industry in 2025. Drill down to the independent practice level, and the data shows physician groups leaving 10 to 25% of potential commercial revenue entirely uncollected. The practices absorbing this loss aren't making unforced billing errors. This margin erosion is a mathematical certainty of passive contract management. Stale fee schedules are only half the problem. The other half hits the bottom line immediately through unrecovered underpayments. An underpayment happens when a payer remits a dollar amount that is less than the exact negotiated contracted rate for a specific service, and the practice simply accepts it. Most practices lack a payer-by-payer loaded fee schedule. Without that system in place, the billing staff has no way to systematically verify incoming remittances against their actual contracts. This 100-block grid represents a standard volume of paid claims. Analysis shows that up to 3.4% of those claims actually contain an underpayment that the practice simply accepted without challenge. The market variance is severe. Recent data from Aurora's Health identifies payment disparities of up to 300% for identical CPT codes within the exact same geographic market. When one orthopedics management group finally ran a detailed contract audit against these disparities, they uncovered over $10 million in underpayments they had already accepted. Payers are also increasingly issuing mid-contract amendments. These clauses allow them to unilaterally change reimbursement rates without the provider ever realizing a change took place. Accepting payer remittances without contract-verified comparison data guarantees systemic and compounding revenue leakage. The only way to stop this leakage is to approach the payer table strictly armed with comparative data. Requesting an across-the-board flat percentage increase almost always fails. A successful negotiation requires isolating specific codes. First, the practice must benchmark their current rates against the latest MGMA Cost Survey percentiles for their specific specialty. Second, those same rates must be benchmarked against current Medicare BRVS values to establish a baseline of what the market actually pays. This chart ranks 20 common procedure codes by volume. Instead of a broad request, the practice must isolate only the 5 to 10 highest volume CPT codes that currently lag behind those market rates. This data is compiled into a complete negotiation packet. It requires peer comparison ranges, exact benchmark data, and proposed code-specific rate adjustments. Bringing hard math to the negotiation yields a typical 10 to 30% increase in overall reimbursement. Even a minimal 2 to 3% gain on a single top payer can generate upwards of $500,000 in annual revenue for a mid-size practice. The rates are only one part of the equation. Reviewing the contract's legal language regarding downcoding and recoupment terms is critical to prevent payers from quietly clawing back those negotiated gains. Effective negotiation operates as an ongoing, data-driven workflow rather than an emotional plea for higher compensation. Practice owners understand these financial benefits, yet the negotiations still don't happen. The barrier is pure logistics. The average independent medical practice is actively managing between 20 and 30 different commercial payer contracts at any given time. Large hospital systems deploy entire managed care departments dedicated solely to processing this paperwork. Independent practices rarely have that luxury. The entire workload falls onto a single administrator who is already juggling human resources, daily billing operations, and credentialing. Without an automated system providing 90-day pre-revalidation alerts, critical renewal deadlines are inevitably missed by overwhelmed staff. The failure to negotiate is a structural bandwidth problem. Standard in-house solutions simply demand too many hours to be viable for independent groups. The operational pivot requires delegating the entire contract lifecycle to a specialized outsourced team equipped with AI workflows. Artificial intelligence accelerates this process by instantly matching a practice's complex CPT mix against current market percentiles to surface anomalies and rank the highest impact codes. While AI flags the targets, a credentialed human analyst takes that data to lead the actual payer rep outreach and execute the final amendments. Providers can access this fractional model for a few $100s a week, bypassing the heavy financial burden of a fully loaded internal hire that costs between $65,000 and $95,000 a year. The system deploys fast. Providers go live, with negotiation packets actively being drafted within just 14 days. This exact AI-assisted framework currently protects the margins of over 800 medical practices nationwide. Securing a clinic's financial future requires abandoning the set-and-forget fallacy and instead adopting continuous, mathematically rigorous contract engineering.